All right, so moving on from discussing Peacemaker, we're going to be discussing Book of Boba Fett. So this is
Hmm.
episode 3, chapter 3, as they name it in the series of good old Boba Fett. In this series, um, we kind of see a little bit more of, kind of explain the story, kind of get into some more things here. Um, I will still say that
Hmm.
even with this episode 3, I'm not still sold on the series, and it only
Hmm.
has 4 episodes left, and it kind of hasn't won me over all that much yet. How do you kind of feel about it?
I'm right there with you. I said it before with Nick was here. I'm like, I was looking at my watch, like, all right, what are you trying to tell me? What's the point? You deviated from what lore that I do know and the lore of his kind of character, and I'm gonna take over the Hutt's territory. Why? Why you're a bounty hunter? Why do you care? And even before, you had other reasons when you met the Mandalorians, and you helped because of the Mandalorian War, and you know what it's like to kind of lose family, and you're trying to figure this stuff out. That makes sense. I understand where your character's coming from in that range because of his culture and stuff that is explored. All right, you met Sand People. Look where that led to. Now that's over, backstory's over. Glad to know that didn't mean anything. Uh, it's just I don't know what the point of this is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with the crime list stuff, it's like, so the Huts, they come back in this episode, the
Hmm.
cousin Huts, they hear, it's like, okay, I don't know if they're maybe going to come back later, and they're going to be this big threat later on, and they're going to face off against him. Um, but the whole thing of him being a crime lord, it's like you said. What I asked this question last when we talked about episode 2 is, what's really the point of him doing this? Why does he really want to do it? Why does he really want to be the leader here, in this situation? And I just don't understand that as of yet. The backstory stuff of him learning this whole other culture with the Tusken Raiders, we talked about it also last episode, and I kind of like that stuff, the flashback stuff. I think that it's like you talked about before Dusk. It's like they're trying to do two different series.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to do all this backstory stuff, but then also trying to do this other series as well with him being the crime lord, and I just don't think it blends all that well together. Um, and there's still kind of and stuff to kind of appreciate. But I think with this episode, it follows kind of the other pattern a little bit of what we've seen from the past other episodes. This episode opens up with Stephen Root in it, where he kind of comes to him and does say what kind of has been on everybody's mind. It's like, well, hey, dude, yeah, we know you're like in charge now, but nobody really respects you in this position,
Hmm.
because you haven't really flexed your authority here. So it's like, yeah, I mean, people that were protected under the old leadership is kind of, they're falling by the wayside here because you haven't really protected them and done your thing. And again, it's still, I get he's trying to build his crew and trying to do his thing, trying to do it, build his crew. But it's still just kind of the four of them, and it's
Yeah.
like, I mentioned this before. It's like, why can't these other major forces just take him out? And
Yeah.
Stephen Root. I mean, Stephen Root's always an amazing character actor. And all this stuff he does, you know what I mean? I mean, he's been in tons of different stuff,
Oh
mostly
yeah.
the Mike Judge stuff. I mean, he was the voice of Bill Dauterive in King of the Hill.
Oh yeah.
He was in the Office Space. I mean, he's been in tons of stuff. I mean, great character actor. But
Dodgeball.
yep, Dodgeball. Yeah, he's been in, tons and tons of stuff. And he's great here. Like, he's great in a lot of stuff he's in. And then so it sets
Yeah.
him kind of off about, like, okay, trying to really trying to understand this territory. And it's just like with Tatooine, with the Mandalorian, and I'm gonna try not to compare it too much with the Mandalorian, but with the Mandalorian, it was like seeing different locations, going to kind of
Right.
different planets, him traveling. Him. There was a goal there. It's like, okay, get Baby Yoda to his people. That was kind of the goal of this show, and trying to do it. It's like, okay, him setting up shop in this Tatooine, which never has been the most interesting place. That was always a place that people
No.
just went to.
Luke wanted to leave.
Yeah, he's like, okay, it's a planet with two suns, and it's desert and all this other stuff. It's like, man, get me the hell up out of here. I want to join the Empire. Fuck this. You know what I mean? He was ready to join the whole
Hmm.
Empire. He's like, I'm trying to do anything to get out of here. And it's just a lot of stuff. It's just not this interesting locale to really explore all that much, I don't think, here. Or at least they don't make it that interesting. And with the stuff of him going like, okay, with Stephen Root coming and saying like, okay, well, these people they stole from me, handle it, try to flex your authority here, show me that you're this big crime boss, and I
Yeah.
can do something for you, and then he goes to try to do it, and then he does. Uh, oh hey, what's going on there, hey man? Hey, go to Vanity Spheres. You said episode 3 was a misstep. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I kind of agree there, man. Thanks for showing up. But yeah, I mean, with the stuff here, it's kind of he shows up and with these kind of punk biker gang people,
Oh yeah.
which was very
You're like,
kind
what
of.
the heck?
It was almost like something out of Blade Runner, kind of.
Yeah, it was like cyber. You got cyberpunk mixed in my Star Wars.
Yeah.
I know that was kind of sort of a like a wink and nod to George Lucas's American Graffiti kind of days. That felt
Oh,
very American Graffiti, but
yes.
you're like, but that tone doesn't. These characters have these really nice bikes, but they couldn't afford anything else, so they put robotic limbs on themselves that looks really brand new and took a lot of money, but they can't afford wages to buy water, and then they openly admit that they stole water.
Yeah. Hey, thanks
And
for
they're
that.
right across from the guy that they stole it from.
Yeah. Thanks, by the way, for the redeem on the hydrate there, Devils, that game. Thank you, man. My mouth was a little dry talking on this much. That's what happens doing this
Jeez.
podcast. Yeah, like you mentioned, the people that were there, they stole right from the dude who's standing. They stand
Yeah.
right in front. I'm like you just. I mean, I don't know. You ain't got guys yourself that you can have like just knock these dudes. They're literally in front of your shop. They're literally
Yeah.
right there. And Boba Fett, he's coming to these punk biker gang people, and it's a very. And I'm glad you mentioned American Graffiti. Thank you for mentioning that because maybe it was a
Mhm.
shout out to that. I didn't think about that. I think that's a very good analysis there. Something like that. And I know George Lucas. I mean, when people say like, well, why is this in Star Wars? Especially when they drive their little Power Ranger Vespas or whatever. As Javon Good also mentioned, a lot of people call them out as well when they saw this episode that these colorful bikes they're riding.
Yeah.
First of all, that I mean, colorful stuff is like that. It's like the prequels. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that
Yeah.
has been in the Star Wars world before. The
It
50s.
can.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it can, and the whole '50s aesthetic that was also in the prequels because of like when it goes to the '50s diner and
I
attack.
kind of I want to forget about that because that doesn't fit at all.
Yeah, I mean, they go to like the '50s diner and Attack of the Clones and stuff like that. And with that is, it, it's like not that it's colorful for me. Like that's the main sticking point. Some people, it's just
Right.
that it doesn't fit on this Tatooine planet
Right.
of this kind of. It seems like this planet is a very destitute planet. Very,
Hmm.
you know what I mean. The rich are rich, but the poor are very poor. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's a clear, huge imbalance there, and that's why there's all this crime and everything like
Hmm.
that there in this planet.
If their vehicles looked like the colors have been really desaturated and beat up, and all these extra doodads were on old things that it looks like almost painted on crudely, and they're trying to make it like this, then I'd be like, oh, that's like a homage to that, and they're just trying to stand out. They're trying to put some amount of color in a really like saturated area like Tatooine. They're trying to stand out. And if the machinery actually fits Star Wars machinery that it's supposedly set in that era, it would be a lot more gritty and more almost especially if they can't afford limbs that look like their body, they could it would look a lot more almost cybernetic, a lot more uh yeah, just honestly just gritty, more mechanical. But all their stuff looks like cyberpunk cosplay. Like he has like a cyber eye with that big thing over his head. I'm like, that doesn't. That's not what Star Wars how you would have replaced that eye. I mean, it would have been a lot more clunkier if you're going to be that bad, or they just would have removed the eye entirely and not even bothered.
Yeah. With the stuff with the bikes, it's just like when Boba Fett, he comes to them,
Yeah,
and he's trying to be a more peaceful guy, right? He's trying to be more like, okay, I'm not just gonna come in and shoot and ask questions later,
yeah,
and I'm gonna try to talk to these people. It's like, okay, why did you steal? And he's like, okay, but there's no work. and that's why we can't, we're stealing. Even though they got these nice looking ass bikes, I mean,
I
these
know.
these bikes look brand new. It's like, wow, I guess
Yeah.
you must not be working, but how you get these nice ass bikes like this, all shiny and
Yeah.
nice colors? It's like, damn, I guess you spent a lot of
Yeah.
time working on the bike then.
Yeah, and
Uh,
one of that, and the guy with the eye even makes a notice at the very end, where they talk like, "Keep your eyes open." He's like, "Oh, sorry." He's like, "No, it's all right. No, it's all right, mate. I paid a lot of money for this eye." And you're like, "Oh, so you paid a lot of money for your cybernetic implant, but not for water. Got it."
Yeah, it's like maybe I don't know if you can afford to keep these bikes in nice condition and afford that new eye and maybe that like maybe I don't know maybe you could afford to get off planet maybe and
Yeah, you could have pulled a bunch of money and just left.
you
There's
know
ships that come and go. You could just leave.
yeah I mean I don't know maybe I don't know the financial situation but it's just like I don't know
I
it just
don't know
seems
the
like
financial situation.
I don't know but maybe it's like maybe you could have left I don't know but
Mistakes were made.
yeah. So he recruits them and things like that, pissing off Stephen Root. Because he's like, okay, fine, here you go. His half of what the water is worth, that you think it's worth. We're gonna give it to you, and then I'm gonna take this crew, and then everything like that. It's like, I get they're trying to. It's done almost in such a clunky way of the way they're trying to
Yeah.
do what he's building an organization, a crew
Yeah.
of people, because to take on these threats that are eventually going to come from people that he's probably pissing off. It's almost like a video game type thing,
Yeah, it
where
really
you
does.
where you play like maybe Mass Effect, and it's like
Mm.
okay, you're trying to get together a
Oh,
crew.
don't even degrade Mass Effect. This is more like Saints Row. This is like early Saints Row.
Yeah, like
Not even Saints Row 2. Not even Saints Row 2. The great Saints Row 2.
so yeah, maybe something like Saints Row. You're trying to maybe get your crew together, do something, and then hey, thank you for the follow there, Jump Scare Guy 22. Thank you so much, man. So yeah, much like yeah, he's trying to gather a crew because very much he's trying to they're trying to build up people that's going to help him in the future to take on all these bigger threats that eventually is going to come,
Yeah.
and it's not that exciting because you know these threats are kind of going to come
Yeah.
eventually of all the people that he's kind of maybe rubbing the wrong way as he's trying to do this thing, and trying to the learning process goes. And as Javon Good, he's mentioned, never let Robert Rodriguez direct a chase scene. That chase was so slow. That chase was terrible.
Oh yeah, it was god awful.
That when they ride these, because there's a scene where they go and try to meet with the mayor, and then the mayor's assistant. Again, it feels like a lot of this episode. It feels like we're on repeat because it's a lot of the same beats of okay, he goes to talk to the mayor again. Then he goes to he gets he sits on his throne and then has other people come and talk to him. It's like okay, what's the issue today? And then people talk to him about the issue, and then he tries to fix the issue that people talk to him about when he's sitting on the throne. It's like it just feels like such a repeat of what we've already seen.
It,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
oh no, I'm good. I've been talking a lot about the show. Go ahead, man. Yeah,
Uh, this okay. So when I was watching this episode, it made me realize why I haven't really gotten into this. And I think what a lot of people have brought up before is this doesn't feel like Boba Fett, and I think I understand now why. This feels like a show that was written for a completely different character, a completely new character. But that character did not have enough clout to take over in that absence. So they got Boba Fett to take over because they knew that character wouldn't have enough to get this show off the ground. Because a lot of moves that Boba Fett makes in this, they've had to do a lot of retconning to do, so he doesn't do what Boba Fett does. The whole situation with those kids, those I call them kids because they're basically teenagers. They don't look poor. They wear really fashionable new clothes, and he just shows up and he goes, "Hey, you owe him money, pay it." No, we don't feel like it. Old Boba Fett would have shot one of them, just instantly. All right, shot one of them. Let's try that again. You owe them money. Now you have one less person. I suggest you pay it. I'm the daimyo. You hand that over now. You handle it. If otherwise, I'm going to take you, capture you all, and I'm going to put you in the mines to pay it off. And you're like, he wouldn't have, he took no crap and he would have done some stuff like that. Or he would have let them handle it however they want to handle it. And say it's bygones be bygones. But it feels like this character, it's almost like his partner, played by the actress who voiced Mulan, and
Ming Na Wen.
Ming Na Wing, also Melinda May and Shield, Agents of Shield. one of the best characters on Agents of Shield.
Yep.
Uh, Honestly, I almost would have been all right. Fine, this is your show. You seem to have a better beat on what's going on here. Why don't you take it over? Because this doesn't Boba Fett doesn't feel Boba Fett, and she might as well just take it over because she has the better analysis of things. He's like, I have to send a message. Nah, they'll just come to you. What happens? Oh, they come to you. Like everything she says is like to counter him when he makes a suggestion. It feels like the Worf problem from Star Trek. And I'm not even a big Star Trek fan, but I know people who are. And how do you show a character is big and strong? Well, we'll have him beat up Worf. And that's so you know. Worf is a powerful Klingon, so that means you gotta take him seriously. But then Worf gets beaten up like every 3 episodes. So really, by unfortunate happenstance, because you do it so often, that also makes Worf seem like a weak character because he gets beaten up so often. This feels like that. It feels like a character that was meant to be something else, and then the Mandalorian was successful, and they're like, oh, well, we really don't have a big idea for Boba Fett, so we're just going to shoehorn Boba Fett into this character and kind of meld them into two. And we'll throw in some characters, from legacy characters from the EU, and make people kind of sort of happy with that.
Yeah. And a legacy character to kind of bring in from kind of the EU is the Wookiee character. What's the Wookiee's name again? Blanking on the Wookiee.
Something. Something.
I forgot the Wookiee's character's
Chris,
name.
I know it's like Crescent, KRSS
Chrysanthemum.
something.
Oh, yeah, it's a chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum, yeah.
Chrysanthemum is the Wookiee's name. And I was excited when I saw that, not because I know the character from the EU, but I'm
Right.
like, oh man, I bet you there's going to be a good fight scene later on that's going to happen in the series between him and Boba Fett. And then he comes, the very next episode, in this episode, he's coming into Boba Fett's place. First of all, I don't even know how he snuck in there. It's a giant, it's a huge Wookiee that's the size of, bigger, it's the size of a fucking gorilla. And then I'm like, how this gorilla ass Wookiee is going to walk in this place, and then, attack him, Boba Fett while he's in his bathtub tank, strangle him, and the whole thing, he could just kill him right there. He's got him right there. He
had 4 different times where he could have easily just killed him. Also, if you didn't notice, before he had the flashback about what happened to the Sand People, you noticed that there was a force shield around his tank that was suspiciously not on when the Wookiee was able to open it. Who turned off the force shield?
Yeah,
that's the whole point, was to protect him while he's in that. Why wouldn't that still be on?
Maybe somebody's
I didn't see a console near there.
Maybe somebody betrayed him. Maybe somebody's double agent. Maybe.
Come on, they're not clever enough. They're not clever enough to bring that up. That's just something they don't want you to think about.
Maybe, or maybe he shut it off. I don't know. Maybe the Wookiee knew how to shut it off. I don't know.
Okay, his big paws be like,
but yeah, it's like he has a chance to kill him right there, but then he takes him out of the bathtub tank and then throws him. Then he chokes him again. Then he throws him again. I'm like, bro, a Wookiee is incredibly strong.
Yeah, take arms, rip off. Done.
Yeah. It's just like there's so many chances the Wookiee could do to just kill him right here, but he doesn't. So it's like he doesn't have any equipment, no weapons, no anything. But don't worry, the Wookiee will just throw him to the weapons. Don't worry, he'll just do that so he has a chance to fight back.
Yeah, he'll be stupid.
And then there's so many times where he hits him, Chrysanthemum hits him. It's like, again, a Wookiee's very, very strong. And he gets smacked around. It's like he would have a broken jaw or broken, something, arm, leg, something. The way
he get back in that tank.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way he's doing them. But no, it's just like he hits him and then he smacks him around. It's nothing too big of a deal. Takes him, even tries to bear hug him. And then you hear, kind of bones breaking, I guess, but nothing. And it's just kind of like, yeah. And then the people that he spared and helped out, the young cyberpunk 2077 kids, they run in and help him and everything like that. It's just like, okay. And it's just like, it wasn't that good of a fight scene. I don't think it wasn't that strong. It wasn't what I was expecting maybe from this character of this Chrysanthemum who's been betrayed. It's like when he shows up, it's like, ooh, shit, this is badass. This is gonna be a badass character.
This should have been like a Daredevil fight to the death scene. This should have been like I barely come aware, and then he fights his way in, beats the crap out of everybody, and now it's just him, Boba Fett, and Boba Fett has to use his means. He has to use all his training and to just barely get this guy into to knock him out and
Mm.
capture him, and then they just put him in the pit.
Yeah.
Like that would have been like a really fun fight, really intense fight, and he had to use his wits because he doesn't have his armor on and he only has some weapons. That
Mm.
would actually make his whole training with the Sand People maybe somewhat, but he didn't even use any. He just used a club.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna stop a Wookiee. Totally. I would definitely not reach for that rocket on my jetpack and just aim it at the Wookiee that you threw me towards. Thanks.
You probably don't want to shoot the rocket though in that close of space.
Who gives a shit at that point? You know what I mean? And my life's in the line at that point. I'm not gonna finagle with like a little bracelet thing as I get it on. I'm just gonna point the thing and shoot. He's 3 feet in front of me. At that point, the thing's just gonna. I'll probably barely make it out. He won't. At least I'll be put in the tank.
Yeah, he'll just be in pieces, and then okay, you may get just knocked back, and then just
Yeah.
put back in the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when they capture him is just he stands in the spot for where they can push the button. He can go in the Rancor pit, and things like that. And the whole resolution of that is just they.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they just kind of just let him go. I mean, like okay. I mean,
And he's like, hey man, I know what it's like to work for crappy people. And I love even Chrysanthemum looks at him as the way that I was looking at him, like what the f?
yeah,
Like you're just gonna let me go?
yeah.
Like even he was in disbelief.
But it's just building up to him coming back and maybe him being a part of the team
Oh,
squad.
God.
And he's gonna fight with
God.
Boba Fett or something. So
Oh
it's
my
like,
god, please don't. That's
Yeah.
so stupid.
Yeah. Something I like though. I did like the Rancor stuff. Like Danny Trejo is the Rancor.
That's oh yeah, Uncle Danny showing up. I was like, oh man, is that Uncle Danny? And it was.
Yeah.
Everything about the Rancor stuff was fine.
Yeah, I thought that it does kind of it adds more stuff. Like just what they did with the Tusken Raiders. It adds more mythology to these different characters in Star Wars. Something that obviously when George Lucas was making this all the way back in 1977, it's like just like with Boba Fett. It's just like I made Boba Fett because he was cool. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, he's this cool bounty hunter character, whatever. Then all of a sudden people took that, they loved the character, then then tons of people added more onto it and, more characterization, more, background, everything like this. And they did tons of stuff with the character. So with this, with the Rancor stuff, it's like no, this is actually a very emotionally intelligent creature, and you know what I mean. And you got to treat him right, and he'll kind of like a dog, and he'll kind of kind of base his personality and off of you and everything like that. And so I thought that was pretty nice. I thought that was kind of cool, Ringo stuff. And if it's building up towards him potentially, fucking up shit with a Rancor and him riding it. Okay, I'd be up for that. That
Yeah,
sounds kind of
all for it.
that sounds kind of
Something, anything.
Yeah. Javon Good said that the Wookiee was cracking his back like Spider-Man in No Way Home. It was very Kingpin-esque, I would say. More.
Yeah.
It was very like when Kingpin takes. If you ever seen like Kingpin take Spider-Man and just squeeze him or something like that, it felt very much like that. Yeah. Yeah. Man, I just don't know what you're doing with this series. I just don't know what you're doing, man. Where is it going? I'm just kind of confused on that element, and I think hearing about the concept of the show, the whole crime lord stuff, Boba Fett, I thought was cool. I was like, okay, all right, I'm prepared for this. And then Ming-Na Wen, I'm always excited to see more Ming-Na Wen. In anything. And again, she's I think one of the best things in here, even more so than Boba Fett. Because like you said, she really seems like she knows what to do here. You know what I mean? And she does like all about this crime life, and it's like, okay, listen, you need to be kind of ruthless, and you need to dominate kind of with an iron fist here in order to kind of get the respect. And maybe it's going to be a situation where maybe he's going to see maybe her side of things more. Because there was, after the attack he experienced from Chrysanthemum, he was like, okay, I need to strike back. I need to fight back. And I need to show people. But, the whole stuff, it's like, I just don't see really, like, what's stopping these major forces from just taking him out. You know what I mean? He leaves all the time. Like, they all go together to go and do stuff. They don't, I'm like, you don't leave
One
anybody.
ambush. and the whole empire's over.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
ambush.
yeah. It's just it's like it's like it seems like you could handle this situation
Yeah,
pretty if you're
yeah.
that bothered
Like
by it.
again, I would actually be totally cool with a show that showed the anarchy that happened after Hut's absence. Like, I would love to have seen a show and a brand new character, and then I would have loved to have seen all that happens, and then all the absence, and they had to go through all these different like wars, and this new character we're following that character's journey, and they spent time, and so you learn get to Tatooine from this character, and all this cool thing, and then other characters join in on them, and he's slowly building a crew to turn Tatooine into a better place. And then you can have a cool little stinger at the very end of that series where it's like, oh man, and then all of a sudden a hand punches out of the ground and a shuttle comes near it and pulls out the hand, and it's Boba Fett being pulled out by one of his bounty hunter buddies. And you're like, oh man, he might show up in season 2. That might be some cool stuff. As they're trying to think of a build, that would have been cool. But this, you're like, yeah, like where you have like a mass hysteria, you could in a vacuum, a power vacuum going on. That's more interesting. They took up all these different characters. I'm like, oh, I recognize that name for this thing. I don't know that, but I would sure like to know a little bit more about this. And you're just not. You're just being told things that you're supposed to know or characters know. And come on, man. Show, don't tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's to stop them from throwing in a thermatic bomb into his base?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Just throw a thermal grenade. Bam. All right. Attack. Dead.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. What is again? Yeah. What's stopping any of these
Does
people
he
from just?
shield over his base? Do the iron wall does it like create a shield in which that would be a fairly impenetrable, and that's why I took the location of the Hutt's location is because they got in when it was down because of what Luke and Leia and the team did. That would be kind of interesting because it's like, oh man, then it stopped the Raiders, and we're gonna pick this as our stronghold. But that has its own set of problems because there's the Hutts, they want what's theirs, but then there's other Hutts that are like, nah, we just want to go back to our planet. We had way better there. This is just a stupid rock, and that creates tension within the Hutts because they again that would have actually become almost like a tiny Game of Thrones, but only on Tatooine. That'd be at least kind of interesting.
Like
But
if you saw all
yeah,
the different perspectives from all these other different people,
exactly.
and then got like them talking about like, oh, how are we gonna do it? Like something like some Sopranos type stuff. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
You know?
Sopranos, but in the desert, it's mixed with like a spaghetti western feel
Yeah.
because it's kind of outlawish.
Yeah. And then people pick sides, and then it's like, okay, this territory, and then it's like, how are they gonna battle? And then yeah. But yeah, we're gonna keep up with it. Still review the episodes. 4 more episodes left. But yeah, it's not so strong for me right now. Not feeling that good about it. What about you, man?
I'm right there with you. As I said before, I would have waited till the entire thing was done before I commented, but I'll do episode by episode. But at this rate, I think even when it's finished, it's still not gonna add up to anything substantial.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're gonna keep up with the episodes and then give our final thoughts on it when the series wraps, of course.